Hey everyone, welcome to different frameworks in test automation. Let's get started. So, what are all the different types of frameworks available in test automation? There are multiple frameworks based on the requirements which we use for automation. So, first is linear automation framework. What is linear automation framework? Linear automation framework is also referred to as the record and playback framework. So wherein the scripts can be recorded and then it can be used as a playback for verifying a particular set of actions on any of the modules in the web pages or on the mobile devices. So this particular framework is used wherein the tester requires no coding experience. It can be directly recorded and playback. There is no need to write the custom code for linear automation framework. It can directly be used as a record and playback mechanism for performing any automated test. So next comes the modular based framework. What is modular based framework? Implementing a module in a framework which requires the application to be divided into separate units, functions, and sections. This is based on the modules which we verify, or this is based on the requirements which we divide. It can be divided into multiple things. So this kind of framework is known as a modular based framework. And the next is library based framework. A library-based framework is similar to a modular-based framework. Like inside library-based framework, we divide the framework into multiple modules, and then each module will be created into a library and then specified and used for performing any set of automation. So this kind of technique is known as a library-based automation framework. And the next one is data-driven framework. What is data-driven framework? Data-driven framework is nothing but using a data or specifying a set of data in a separate files and then accessing it inside the framework whenever it is required. This type of framework helps in avoiding multiple set of data being repeated in all over the framework. So that is data-driven framework. What is keyword-driven framework? Keyword-driven framework, each function of an application or a test is laid out in a table with a series of instruction in a sequence order. For example, any script logic that are separated based on the keywords is known as a keyword-driven framework. This is to test each application can be tested in a multiple ways. So in keyword-driven, first is for example, if you consider logging in, launch the browser, it should be in a sequence. So those kind of things is known as a keyword-driven framework. Hybrid testing framework is nothing but the combination of any frameworks along with data-driven, keyword-driven is known as a hybrid testing framework. This set of framework is used for performing any of the testing techniques, and it can be used to even perform multiple tests together by adding multiple set of frameworks together in this particular piece of framework. So yeah, moving ahead, let's talk in detail about data-driven testing. So here in data-driven testing, this particular data-driven testing is nothing but the test scripts are connected to an external data source and then told to read and populate the necessary data whenever it is required. So if you consider one particular piece of framework which you have already designed, in that particular framework, if at all you consider a login module, so when you want to log in, the user requires the data for username and password field, right? So in that particular case, if at all you require multiple set of data just to perform and verify whether the login scenario is working fine, it may be positive inputs or it may be negative inputs. So considering that particular piece of data in any Excel files, data pools, or it may be from the database or CSV files, ADO objects, all these particular set of data storing techniques which are applications which can be used to integrate with the framework so that the data can be passed from that particular external source to your framework. This kind of testing is known as data-driven testing. So what are all the advantages of data-driven framework? Tests can be executed with multiple data sets. This particular data-driven testing helps in time saving. For example, if you consider one example wherein you have to verify valid and invalid date format for one particular date field. So if at all your test has multiple values and if you have to verify all for all the values in a month or all the values in a year for at least 10 years, so if you have to give that particular piece of data, you can specify that particular piece of data in any Excel file and then verify for even the positive values and the negative values. So for all the negative values, it should show a valid error message and then it should pass. So here you will be verifying the valid error message along with passing the invalid data. And next comes the positive value verification. So for any date format, if you specify the positive value and then verify the correct error message, that is a positive verification. So this is how multiple data can be specified in any Excel file or a CSV file and then used to verify any date field. So this is one simple example which will be used. So yeah, apart from that, advantages of data-driven framework are hard coding data can be avoided. So any changes to test scripts do not affect the data. Data will be handled in a separate Excel file wherein it doesn't affect any code or any piece of file in your framework. If you edit the data file, only that particular piece of data file is being changed. That's all. So what is the main disadvantage in this particular kind of framework? Setting up the data-driven framework takes a significant amount of time. So if you want to create a specific generic framework of data-driven testing, you have to data can be in any format. It may be in a text format, it may be in a JSON, it may be in a XML, it may be in a CSV. All types of data reading standards should be specified in your framework so that if at all customer provides any type of data, it should be able to handle, your framework should be able to handle that particular piece of data easily and then read that particular piece of data, process that data for accessing inside your framework for performing actions for the specified test scenarios. So this is the main advantage and disadvantage of data-driven framework. Thank you.